Joining me now is author and broadcaster Rabbi Shmuley. Rabbi, some of the anti-Israel rhetoric we have seen in this last week has been absolutely appalling. There is a callousness that is disturbing, the way Israelis are dehumanized. And Rabbi, it seems that Israel is the only country that is scrutinized and criticized after its people are attacked by terrorists.
Well, look at what happened with your Green Party in Australia, Rita. They actually refused to condemn the Hamas atrocities. Now, when Vladimir Lenin took over the former, created the Soviet Union, took over the Russian Empire, he created this term, the useful idiots, the stupid, moronic, imbecilic Western intellectuals who supported him even as he instituted a reign of terror that would lead to Stalin killing 30 million Russians. The Green Party, all of these people who condemn Israel, they are useful idiots at best, and Hamas themselves are laughing at them because Hamas knows that if they gain power, what they would do, they would kill people like these Western intellectuals, women who walk around even just showing a little bit of cleavage. They would be killed. They'd get clitoridectomies. LGBTQ citizens would be castrated, hung from cranes. So even Hamas laughs at them. They are useful idiots at best, and they are anti-Semites at worst. What we're seeing is a global glut, a tsunami of anti-Semitism. It's a 2,000-year-old hatred. We hoped that it would go underground. And after the Holocaust, where the world barely spoke out against 10,000 Jews being murdered every single day. So you had 10 October 7th every single day for 4 years. The world barely said a thing. No one would even take the Jews in. It went underground a little bit because even the world was shocked by what their own hatred of the Jews led to. And now, 3 generations after the Holocaust, we're saying that the world is no longer ashamed, that they're brazen in their anti-Semitism. And I want to just tell all my friends and viewers in Australia, and Rita, thank you for having me so much. You're an amazing friend to me and the Jewish community. I'm married to an Australian woman. I love Australia. I lived in Bondi for 2 years as a teenager. Australians ought to know that Americans are watching them very closely and are shocked by what they see. We are shocked to hear that people were chanting Jews should be gassed outside of the Sydney Opera House. We are shocked that the Green Party will not condemn the beheading of children. We are shocked that they will not condemn the murder of 270 people at a music festival. Go and try to find a music festival under Hamas. Anyone that participated, of course, would be shot or imprisoned. We are shocked by what's happening in Australia, and Australians have to reclaim their democracy because remember, it starts with the Jews. We're the canary in the coal mine. It ends with everybody else. So just know what's coming. Islamists, if they're not stopped, God forbid, you are the next target.
Now, you did mention the Greens. Let's have a look at this image from our parliament yesterday. The Greens, we also had a couple of Teal MPs, Kylie Tink and Sophie Scramps, and Tasmanian MP Andrew Wilkie, refusing to support a motion to condemn Hamas. I didn't think these far leftists could get much lower, but here we are. The MPs backed an attempt by Greens leader Adam Ban to amend the bipartisan motion. They wanted to accuse Israel of war crimes and sought to erase a statement declaring Australia stands with Israel and recognises its inherent right to defend itself. Rabbi, what would you say to those who accuse Israel of committing war crimes like the Greens?
This entire war is about war crimes. It's about the war crimes of Hamas against the Israeli people and against the Palestinian people. Let's remember that Hamas was elected. First of all, when everyone says that Palestinians are blameless, would it were that were completely true? It's probably partially true. Children, of course, are blameless. But the Palestinian people in Gaza elected Hamas in 2006. Now, it is true that Hamas immediately declared a dictatorship, just like Adolf Hitler was democratically elected by the German people, but he created a dictatorship. But every time Israelis get murdered, the people all over the Gaza Strip, they dance, they sing. When 3,000 Americans were incinerated on 9/11, 2001, the people in Gaza, they danced, they sang about Americans and international citizens having to jump 101 floors to their deaths. There's never been any serious resistance to Hamas, even though Hamas is a terrorist organization. So I don't blame the people of Gaza, but to say that they're entirely blameless, they have to rise up against Hamas because Hamas has destroyed their lives. When you speak about war crimes, what do people expect Israel to do? Just let their citizens die and then they use the word retaliate. We Jews only retaliate. We're vengeful. We're not allowed to protect our citizens. This is a form of revenge. No, it's not. Israel just wants to be left in peace. They want Arabs and Jews to live together in peace. All of the carnage and destruction that we're seeing right now in these images as I'm speaking is the responsibility of Hamas. Who was responsible for the destruction of Germany in the Second World War? Who was responsible for the destruction of Japan? Was it Winston Churchill? Was he a war criminal? Was it Franklin Delano Roosevelt? Was he a war criminal? We consider those two men the greatest two statesmen of the 20th century. Hitler was responsible for the destruction of Germany. The Emperor of Japan, Hirohito, was responsible for the destruction of Japan. When you launch aggressive war and incinerate and destroy innocent lives, and then Western democracies fight just to establish civilization again, you cannot blame those democracies for being civilized and trying to uproot the barbarity in our midst.
Over the last week, we have seen plenty of protests in the West, from Melbourne and Sydney to London and New York, for the Palestinian cause. But we are now seeing some data coming in showing overwhelming support for Israel and Israel's right to defend itself. CNN found 71% of Americans call Israel's defensive war justified, whilst Washington Post has 78% saying support for Israel is appropriate or insufficient. Only 18% say it's too much. Rabbi, there's a great deal of goodwill for the only Jewish state, perhaps not amongst academia and celebrities and leftist politicians, but the general public is largely supportive.
Because the general public are people of decency. They just want to raise their children and be safe. When they see that children are burned to death, when they see that women are raped and murdered, and when they see that these fraudulent, fake snake oil salesmen, Hamas, who call themselves religious. I love the way we call them religious extremists. Let's remember Hamas took either an unconscious or dead Israeli woman. We don't know her status. She was in her bra and her underwear, and they paraded her body around in Gaza. These religious, disgusting, prurient men who were almost advertising that they're into necrophilia. You're talking about sickos. You're talking about a level of a demented morality, the likes of which the Western world has almost never seen, and which the Palestinians seem kind of okay with. Where was the disgust on the part of imams? You hate Jews? Okay, you hate Jews, but they're dragging around a woman in her bra and her underwear, and you claim to be religious? You guys are sick. You're a disgrace to Islam. You're a fraudulent snake oil salesman. As far as academia, I don't know how much hope there is for our universities anymore. That Harvard students are actually siding with terrorists is I can't find the words. I was the rabbi at Oxford University for 11 years. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. But I'll tell you something. Alicia Keys apparently just posted and immediately removed a post, Alicia Keys, where she said, "What are all you thinking you would do if you weren't afraid?" And she says, "I'm thinking of paragliding." Let me repeat that. Alicia Keys, a singer, just said she's thinking of paragliding. You're thinking of paragliding what? Into Israel and shooting and killing people? How I'm struggling to find the words because we're all in a state of shock.
Well, BLM Chicago
has no morality.
Well, the BLM Chicago used that image of a paraglider to express their support for the Palestinian cause. So it's incredibly, callous isn't cover it to be using that image when they know those paragliders went to that music festival and raped and slaughtered and took hostages back to Gaza from there. I mean, there's nothing there that's remotely defendable, and yet it's become an image. And we saw protesters again in Europe who had the image of paragliders on their back. It's astonishing. You mentioned Alicia Keys, but it's not just that those who are siding with the Palestinian cause. It's the silence of some of the world's biggest celebrities, the same people who couldn't wait to stand with BLM, despite their neo-Marxist origins. They are happy to virtue signal about global warming, sexism, every issue, but when it comes to this issue, they have been silent. And I noticed Kylie Jenner was another one who actually put up a post expressing solidarity with Israel, and then she took it down straight away because, I don't know, there was a backlash. Her celebrity friends counselled her against it. I don't know what the reason was to remove it, Rabbi, but I mean, the girl's a billionaire. Find some courage.
Yeah, well, Kylie Jenner's father, Caitlyn Jenner, is a very dear friend. And a few years ago, we honored her for her support of Israel. She has been undaunted in her public support. And when she gave a speech in central Manhattan as to why she supports Israel, she said that I'm a transgender woman. If I went north of Israel, I'd be beheaded. If I went east to Iran, I'd be disemboweled. If I went west to Hamas in Gaza, I would be immediately murdered. And therefore, I stand with Israel. This is the simplest moral issue around. A liberal democracy where women have rights, LGBTQ citizens have rights, Arab Palestinians have rights, Jews have rights. And it's a multicultural, multi-ethnic society where Arabs serve, of course, on the Supreme Court. There was an Arab judge that put an Israeli Jewish president of Israel in jail for allegedly raping a woman. That's how righteous Israel is in its equality and fairness. And now you have these Western useful idiots who have no morality. They have no moral compass. They are an absolute disgrace and humiliation to Western democracy, Western culture, to basic values. And we're stupid enough to look to them for moral guidance. Why would I look to Alicia Keys or Kylie? If you want to see some woman pruriently showing her body, go take pictures on Instagram with Kylie Jenner. But if you want morality, go to people who actually courageously fight evil. So when we speak, especially Rita, about what you said, that the majority of Westerners, people in the United States, support Israel, that's not enough. Because they cannot be a silent majority. There has to be a time where people pay a price for their immorality. I am thrilled that there are trucks going around Harvard that show the pictures of the students who signed a petition condemning Israel and saying that Israel deserved these terrorist attacks. They deserve the beheading of babies. I'm thrilled that there's trucks going around showing their pictures. You know, if you hate Israel and you're an anti-Semite, flaunt it. Don't be ashamed. You know, Hitler wasn't ashamed of being an anti-Semite. He was proud of it. The Nazis weren't ashamed. They were proud of it. If the Green Party, just get up and say, we hate Jews and we think Jews are horrible and we don't care when they die. And the people in Hollywood should say the same thing. Kylie Jenner should say, look, I'm kind of indifferent about Jews. I'd like to say something, but, you know, Jews dying is kind of less important to me than my next, endorsement with some company that's going to pay me a fortune. Just be proud of it. Be proud of your anti-Semitism. I respect those. I don't respect their disgusting, dark character, but at least I respect their moral convictions when they don't pretend to be something they're not. It is time for the anti-Semites, for the Green Party. It's time for so many of these people in Hollywood. It's time for BL in Chicago to come out and say, we hate Jews. We think that Jews are kind of vermin. We don't care when they die. They're not really human. They've never been human to us. And at least the world will then know what we're up against. So that's where I'm at right now. I am here to finally fight. We have to take the gloves off and morally express our outrage. Not a day of rage like Hamas called for last week, which is violence, but a day of outrage, a day of moral outrage. Let us publicly out all the anti-Semites. Let us ensure that our businesses do not hire them. Bill Ackman, one of the biggest billionaires here in the United States, announced that he and his CEOs were circulating the names of these Harvard students to ensure that they never hired them by accident. And you know what all those Harvard students did? They all ran and removed their names because even their hatred of Jews still is not as great as their love of money. They want very high-paying jobs. They have no morality. They have no moral compass. They have no humanitarianism. They don't give a damn about Palestinians. They couldn't care less if Arabs die, because if they did, they would be on the front lines protesting that Syria killed 600,000 Arabs over the past decade. 600,000 Arabs. And where do you even hear the name Bashar al-Assad? The UN didn't pass one Security Council resolution against Assad, who killed more Arabs than any man in history, with the sole exception of Saddam Hussein. These people don't care about Arab life. They hate Jews, they hate Jews, they hate Jews.
Rabbi Shmuley, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for your insights.
Rita, I need to just tell you, in a time where the Jews are under global assault, in a time when I watched my daughters, who are, we have 10 young grandchildren, cry the whole Shabbat over, not only over the murder in Israel, of course, and I have two sons serving in the IDF right now, and I have a son that's getting married. He's in the IDF, and we're all going to Israel, 20 of us, God willing, in the middle of this war. My daughters were crying because they cannot believe the global assault on Jewry. I want you to know, and I hope that your producers will keep this part of the segment in, how much we love and respect and appreciate your moral courage. The Jewish people have very few friends. You are one of our boldest and most courageous. God bless you.